Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's great to finally meet you because this is how we meet each other nowadays, through Zoom. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization and what you're passionate about?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me to this podcast. It's a pleasure. So I'll start off with introducing myself. I'm Kenza, and I graduated from the University of California, Berkeley, about a year ago. I studied anthropology. Go there. We have some rivalry. No, I'm joking. Um, so I studied anthropology, but I always had a knack for entrepreneurship and technology, as well as human-centered design, and that's really what I'm working on these days. And also, so as an immigrant from Pakistan, it was really important for me to create these inclusive experiences for all communities. I always had a desire to make a difference, and I was involved in many social impact activities. For instance, I can talk about while at Cal, I started this project on my own, recruited a team of engineers, marketers, finance personnel. It was called Mobility for All.
Hmm.
And this really came about with the idea. I took this anthropology class based on disability, and I volunteered with wheelchair basketball students from high school, as well as ice hockey um, for disabled folks. And it really brought back. I'm really passionate about sports. I played sports throughout my life in middle school and high school, and I played like throw ball, basketball, rowing. Privately, I also played like tennis and badminton, and then yeah,
Wow.
a lot of sports. And I was my football team captain, but soccer for you all.
Nice. Nice.
um,
So you're like super healthy, right? Like you can run like up mountains and stuff like that and not even break a sweat, right?
I'd hope so. I'm really into nature and into like hiking. I really enjoy that. But
Well,
I'd
you're in
say,
the right place for hiking, that's for sure. I mean, there's plenty of
yeah,
great hikes around here.
absolutely. Some of my favorites. The views are lovely here.
Hmm.
So yeah, so then since sports was my passion, and I thought that sports really teaches some very core important life skills such as hard work and persistence, and working with a diverse team. I really wanted to create inclusion for everyone in sports. And so along with my team, we created these three products. One of it was a scooter powered wheelchair for a student. He would really have a hard time, he was just using a regular wheelchair, and going from class to class, he'd just be so drained in his energy that he would have a lack of focus. And then there was another student who we created a personalized glove, and so that he can, play hockey with great energy and fun rather
Oh,
than
cool. What kind of
yeah,
disability did they have?
a
Did that?
cerebral palsy. So
Uh-huh.
he would he was just wearing a, you could say, like a winter glove. So the puck would hurt his hand again and again while he was playing.
Right.
So we created this personalized, leather glove for him with good support,
Hmm.
and that really made his sport much more enjoyable.
Nice. Was
So
that
that,
like is it like a goalie's glove with like the big pad on the outside, or did you?
yeah. So it was, yeah. Inside it had a lot of padding, and from outside it was like black leather.
Hmm. Very cool. So that
So
that
yeah,
was supported the when the puck was hitting him, it would stop. It would
yeah.
stop it. Yeah.
Then
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
it does. It doesn't hurt him. And last was like creating these personalized name placards for the
Hmm.
high school basketball team. And this was the organization who the students are working with were part of the Bay Area Recreation and Sports. And the organization, those name placards were really just to help the students, feel that they're playing a great sport, helping them feel seen, and just being included like all of us.
Hmm. Very cool. Very cool. So, you said you created a scooter-based wheelchair? How did that work? Did you like take the engine out of a scooter, or did you create around the scooter? How did that work? That sounds interesting.
Yeah, so that was a scooter, and then on it we added like wheels. And I wish I could have shown you, but I'm also like practicing, and I'm like driving it around the roads in Berkeley. Uh,
Nice.
it was really great because it also helped out because the parents of that child, they had to like hold him and take him up the stairs, so it would be really difficult for them. So it created a lot of ease.
Hmm. So how did you decide to get into this particular field that you're in right now? I mean, everybody who I know who's been in innovation has come from so many different places. How did you decide to go into what you're doing now?
Yeah, so then, after I did this project, Mobility for All, I actually participated in this program, which is offered by Schoolab, the company that I'm working with. It was called the Equitable Design Lab.
Hmm.
And over there, the impact that was being created for the people, the planet, to better my community really inspired me to start my first career at Schoolab. And at Schoolab, we're really helping the leaders of today collaborate with the leaders of tomorrow to create positive impact. So Schoolab it's an open innovation studio. We're based in Paris in France for about 17 years.
Hmm.
And we work around product inclusion, sustainability, and design fiction, which is looking into the future.
I love design fiction. I do it all the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, these are some very relevant and fun, interesting topics that we work at Schoolab. And I was just some of the examples I'll further get into will really show you how it's related to my desire to make a social impact to all vulnerable communities.
Yeah, no, I'd love to hear about some of the examples, and also maybe the process that you go through to take ideas from inception to do they actually become proof of concepts, or do they go out the door, or like maybe I could talk about the process, or because examples would be great, whichever one you'd like.
Yeah, sure. So I was starting off with what I'd like to discuss today. So there are three core aspects I wanted to discuss. Firstly, product inclusion, which is correlated with intentional inclusion, and then comes into play cooperative design. So, what exactly is product inclusion? Uh, it's really based on the understanding that we cannot build products universally. There is no such thing as one case fits all.
Hmm.
For instance, I'm an immigrant from Pakistan, right? And I just moved here 7 years ago, whereas my colleagues or my classmates, they've lived their entire lives in the US.
I
So
like the
we
way you say just 7 years ago. If you ask me, 7 years is a long time, especially in the internet world, right?
yeah, okay. I mean, in comparison to I have colleagues who were born and raised here,
Oh
so
yeah.
it's
Of course.
yeah. Um, uh, so the product that if a company creates it, it would not necessarily fit my need and fit their need as well, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
absolutely. So to follow on the one size does not fit all is where Schoolab is where we practice the idea of intentional inclusion, which is a very like a hyper focused approach on how we are tackling and understanding a challenge. It's the impact of this intentional inclusion is what really translates into better user experiences.
Mm.
So yeah, that's I can jump into a few examples for you, which I had been working on with our student teams. But just to make it clear that these ideas are not gone to market yet, but these were just ideas that were explored in the classroom environment.
Yeah. But before you jump into that, just wanted to, so do the ideas are they created by the team, the inclusive team, or are they created outside of the team and then you bring these other team members in to contribute, or can you tell me a little bit more about how the process works?
A bit about the program. So like I said, so this Equitable Design Lab, it's a course at Cal over a semester. And we really pair up corporations with student teams. So there's a team of about 4 to 5 students on one challenge. And they're a very diverse group of students from all kinds of majors.
So that you purposely create diverse teams for each of the groups. Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Based on the challenge, we look at what the challenge is and create teams based on that.
And can you give me an example of what a challenge would be?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. So one of the examples that we worked with Cisco, and Cisco has this Duo mobile app, which is basically a security feature.
Oh yeah, I use it all the time.
Okay.
for good or bad.
Yeah, I think all of us use it. So so at Cal, of course, students used it to log into their Cal Central portal, which is a portal which has very important information for students, including courses, grades, etc., etc. So the challenge here that we were dealing with was how might we make cybersecurity more accessible and inclusive for people living with a disability. And our main objective was improving the user experience for the visually impaired. And by the end of it, the solution that was created was a proximity solution that allowed for improved privacy and safety. It just made the entire process much more easier for someone with a disability, and so that they're not being attacked by any kind of cybersecurity issues.
Right, because right now you basically you're given a code, or you're told to go to this thing, and there's a push notification where you have to enter a code. How do you make it more inclusive for the disabled folks?
Yeah, so for the disabled folks, how we made it more inclusive was that we used this proximity solution. It allowed for improved privacy and safety. It simplified the device's compatibility, and it just created efficiency by saving time for the users.
So they would just come closer to it, or I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out how that would work. They would just come close to the device.
Yeah, the phone is close to it, and then it authenticates the device, and then it logs into the laptop. And this really saved 27 seconds of times were saved, 9 swiping gestures were saved, 1 double typing gesture was saved. There was 0 use of Siri being involved, 0 use of switching among apps and devices. Before they'd have to
open up the app and find the thing that they're doing, and then get the number and do that tapping and all that stuff. And so how did you do that? Did you put some kind of sensor on the laptop, or did you use a sensor on the phone, or how did you put those things together?
This is I think I'll have to invite my
giving you I'm asking for the technical explanation, but no, that's a great idea. But I mean, that it's almost like, have you ever read the book The Best Interface is No Interface?
Uh-huh.
So he was talking about how our interfaces now are so clunky. Like, for example, if you have an interface that unlocks a door, I
Mhm.
mean, when you're walking up to it opens the door, right? So you walk up to a door and you turn the handle and you walk in, right? But the interfaces that we have now are okay. Let me fire up the app. Let me find the door. Let me hit its code. Blah blah blah. So it sounds like what you're doing is you're creating that same kind of simplistic interface, which we're all used to because we know exactly how to deal with doors, right? So just coming close to and having a proximity with the thing that you want to log into
Yes.
is exactly what a regular human being would do. So it's kind of like you're going back to, and it's not just for ability issues. It's all for just a regular human person, wanting to log in. So
Yes.
it's a great solution.
Yes. And another example that I'd like to discuss is with Grammarly. So I'm sure a lot of you know Grammarly.
I
Uh,
use that all the time.
yeah, yeah, I think all of us use that, but to maybe make it clear to the audience, it's a typing assistant. It reviews spelling, grammar, punctuation, etc. And so something like the challenge Grammarly was facing was around language discrimination and inclusivity.
Hmm.
And how we wanted to identify the language discrimination within a team through data and analytic insights for managers to understand uh, what is the issue. For instance, so at Grammarly, when there are a number of applicants applying, and this could be a case for any company, the language that is being used, it really keeps some candidates from applying because of the discrimination
Hmm.
that is there. So for this the student team, they came up with the integrated dictionary and database for discriminatory wording and to use more inclusive language, so that next time when the audience is applying to uh, Grammarly, uh, it's there's no language discrimination. And when there's language discrimination, you're losing out on a diverse workforce,
So
right?
are you talking about the uh in the job description or in
Yes,
the job
job.
post? So in the job posting, so it would process the job posting to make sure that there's no discriminatory language
Yeah.
in the job posting. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. So, addressing this language discrimination is it's really important, because if you want a diverse workforce and your language is discriminatory, then you're really losing out on a lot of relevant candidates.
Hmm.
So yeah, so these were some of the examples that we've been working on. But now I wanted to jump into co-design.
Hmm.
And co-design is, like it involves actively. So, okay, let's look into this. Actually, let's go a little back. So, for example, there's any corporation, there's a company, right? And they have a team of designers, and those designers may be very diverse, right? For
Hmm.
instance, there's a Black woman, there's a South Asian woman, and we'll say, okay, they can create some diverse products for us. But the case is that their experiences are really very different from the experiences of our users.
Hmm.
And that's where co-design falls into place. We want to really actively involve the stakeholders, the users, the designers in the design process to create solutions that are meeting their needs.
Right.
So that's something that's very important, that we need to understand, that when we're creating um, for underrepresented communities, and we're historically marginalized communities, and this is just to specify, it's not just race, but it's education, it's socioeconomic background, and so much more that we're looking into. And talking to these talking and interviewing these people from within these communities is when we'll be able to create solutions that meet their needs. And yes.
So I can understand bringing people in sort of like the target audience for the particular project that you're working on. But what happens if you're doing something that's more for the general public? How do you know who to bring into, say, an ideation session to make sure that you have the right levels of diversity and inclusion?
You're saying if we're creating a general
Yeah, let's
product?
say I was inventing a new app, a new social media app, and I wanted to make sure that it was crossing all the sort of like checking all the boxes on diversity and inclusion. How would I know who I'd need to bring into the design process to make sure that I was covering it?
So that's what I'm trying to explain. So we're focusing more on intention inclusion and really hyper specifying the audience that we're working towards.
Okay. So you wouldn't go to a more
Yeah.
generic audience. You would be
No.
targeting a specific, so you have the target audience first, and then you make sure that you have representation from the target audience, because a lot of times there's a disconnect between the builders and the audience that they're building for.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We don't want to look into general audience, but intention inclusion is about hyper specificity into a certain community. Yeah.
So where do you see this going next? So it's time, like, think like a futurist. It's 10 years from now, in the year 2033. Where do you see this going in 10 years? Like, what direction are we moving in? Are things getting better? Are things getting worse? What could we do to improve these things?
So firstly, I'd say that how this really came about, I'd say 2 years ago, there wasn't much discussion going on about inclusion. It was, these social movements that really raised awareness for companies. However, there were companies such as Microsoft and Google who had been doing this beforehand. But that space and time 2 years ago was why companies started thinking about creating diverse experiences in their products and services. So I'd say right now, it's just the beginning of this, right? The beginning of bringing about inclusion. But in the next 10 years, I see that not just product inclusion, but inclusion as a whole would be something that's integrated into our daily lives in our education systems, in the government, in companies at large. So with time, this is just the start. These are small steps that we're taking towards intentional inclusion. And with time in the next 10 years, we'd hope that people really understand the concept of intentional inclusion.
So we also, I guess we're talking also a little bit about hyper-personalization, because right now you've got these applications and you've got these services and you've got these products that are targeted to more of a general audience. But as we know more about the individual, and as we dig into their backgrounds and their lived experience, then the applications themselves can modify themselves to be more aligned with the user. Would you say that that's an accurate statement?
If you can repeat your question, please.
Well, I mean, because right now you're saying that we're excluding individuals from certain applications, right? This product isn't for you, or this product isn't for you, or there's a discriminatory language or whatever. Yeah. But if the application itself could sort of morph into, not today, but in the future, morph into something that's specifically targeted to that individual. Because if you think about it, when you think about individuals, they're a combination of different factors. You can't just put someone in a group and say this person is part of that group. They're also part of this group and this group and this group, and they're multifaceted. And any product that you develop would have to be super customized that individual so that to make sure that they're included in the way the application is operating. Does that make sense?
Like technological advancements coming along and AI, and that's a tough one, you know. Yeah, of course, in the next 10 years, a lot can happen. They'll this type of a community. But at the core of it, you know, we still have, like I said, people to people and people to planet. At the end of the day, we still want to serve our people and make an impact through to them directly, rather than through these apps.
So this customization would occur on a one-on-one basis based on the projects that are coming in to your team. Is that right?
To certain communities. When you're saying one-on-one, it's not catered toward like an individual, but for instance, like the visually impaired or people being discriminated, to really specific audiences, really empathizing with them. So not an individual, but communities at large.
Okay. So it would be targeted to that specific community. And are the projects any specific kind of project, or is it like anything within that space? So say you were doing something for the underbanked or something like that. Would that be an example of a community that you'd be working with?
Yeah. So all sorts of community, like we worked with you know, a lot of communities. Like another example would be us working with a company called Method, which is you know, for shampoos and
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with them.
exactly. So you know, really making it a more gender and racially inclusive packaging for skincare products. So it can be anything. It could be tech, it could be I've been looking into like inclusiveness in the luxury industry, inclusiveness in the hospitality industry. If you really look into it, there's inclusiveness that needs to be addressed everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I don't think there are any industries where it doesn't need to be looked at, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. All right, so if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
The best way to get in touch with me would be LinkedIn. So I'm Kenza, Kenza, Zahidi, Zahidi. I'd love to connect with all of you, have a coffee chat, you know, discuss more on inclusion or anything, design fiction, just whatever is going on. I'd love to learn from you.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. It's been great.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, since we live in the same area, then maybe we can meet up and I'll have the coffee with you too.
Yes. And then maybe we can talk about Stanford and Cal.
Yeah. That should be fun, right? I'll bring my Stanford shirt.
And I'll wear my Cal. Maybe we should meet at a game, huh?
Yeah, that's right. That would be that would be good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have
All
a
right.
wonderful
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.